Hello. If you didn't know, I have a Twitter called DIIV, where I do very short album reviews, one tweet per album. I've finally compiled my list of my favorite 50 albums. Before I go into the list of 50, I want to mention LaBase's Come Home and Edifice's Candor, two albums that I have put my ears on very often this year and albums that I love the hell out of, but due to friend bias, I do not want to place them on this list. Here are my top 50. Number 50 is the album Spirit Phone from Lemon Demon. 49, Frankie Cosmos' Next Thing. Number 48 is Dive with Is the Is Are. And number 47 is Warehouse with Super Low. 46 is a very groovy, wonderful drums on this record. Xenia Rubinos with Black Terry Cat. 45, some beautiful, sweet, and cute, kind of happy, just kind of lighthearted hip-hop with Noname's Telefone. 44, the most hard-hitting punk EP of this year. I'm just very sad that this band broke up, but G.L.O.S.S with Trans Day of Revenge. 43, something even heavier, metalcore band Nails with You Will Never Be One of Us. 42, this album really confused me because I was not sure if it was serious. Is he just making regular normcore rock just because he wants to, or is he trying to make some sort of incredibly postmodern weird joke? Tim Heidecker with In Glendale. 41 with Clipping. Their new concept album Splendor Misery is a very strange hip-hop album that really went better than it should have. 40, it's the YouTuber, animator, pilotredsun with the strange IDM experiment Achievement. 39, one of the most popular experimental hip-hop albums of this year, which I still think was very good, Danny Brown's Atrocity Exhibition. 38, ambient album, Huerco with For Those of You Who Have Never, and also those who have. Next is Nicolas Jaar at number 37 with Sirens, and then at 36, Bad Bad Not Good comes out with their best album yet, in my opinion, 4. Number 35, a very cute, easygoing, fun pop LP with Kero Bonito, with Bonito Generation. 34, probably my metal album of the year, Brain Tentacles with their self-titled record. It's an incredibly interesting fusion of a bit of death metal, thrash metal, and instead of using guitars, they replace them with saxophones and horns, and it's actually a very tasteful change of pace. Next, at number 33, a very interesting wonky electronic LP with the motion graphics self-titled LP. 32, one of the most infectious and electrifying power pop records, Crying with Beyond the Fleeting Gales. Liza Santos I followed with the independent project Whatever Dad, and seeing her in this context was very unexpected, but also very gratifying. 31, one of the two records that this rapper and singer is featured on, Anderson .Paak with his solo project Malibu. 30, a hilarious but actually pretty tasteful and catchy blend of rap and a little bit of contemporary R&B, Gabriel Gundacker with the concept comedy record I Want to Meet Richard Dreyfuss. Number 29 is Jeff Rosenstock with Worry. Number 28 is Death Grips with probably my second favorite album out of all theirs. No Love Dupe Up is my favorite, but this has almost as incredible instrumental sound play and lyricism and just aggression with Bottomless Pit. And then number 27, an album that really went under most people's radars, but I really did thoroughly enjoy it throughout the year, and I thought it was stripped down, but it still kept at the core of what makes this band so interesting. Animal Collective's recent record, Painting With. And then at 26, an album that really surprised me, greatly surprised a lot of people, Childish Gambino's album, Awaken My Love. Number 25, a record that I think has been an improvement, a slow, incremental improvement from their past few records and EPs, Parquet Courts with Human Performance. 24, another rock record that I wasn't really expecting to enjoy. I just kind of casually listened to it, but I really was blown away by it. Swain with The Long Dark Blue. 23, one of the most polarizing records of the year. Some people hated it, and some people were really into it. It's definitely not as good as their debut, in my opinion. A lot of risks were taken on this album that I think paid off very well. And that, of course, is Bon Iver with 22 A Million. 22, another album that I kind of discovered randomly, and even though it is pretty quaint and small and kind of shy, it is still very fun, sweet, and just pleasant on the ears for me, and that is the album Dang from Eola, an artist I had never heard of before, but some very interesting a cappella loops and kind of gospel influenced and blues. Lots of interesting things going on with this LP, and I think you should check it out. 21, one of the most interesting IDM records of this year. Very incredible concept behind this. It's something so simple, but worked so effectively for the entire length of I think it's a 40-minute record. It's really evocative and fun, interesting, and it always draws my attention in no matter how long I listen to it. The album that sampled a washing machine, Matmos with Ultimate Care 2. 20, this is an artist that I discovered this year, and really this past month or so really just dove deep into. He has huge concepts behind his albums. This one in particular is the first in a 6-part series about dementia. The Caretaker with Everywhere at the End of Time. And number 19, an album that really I was not expecting to like because I'm not usually into this kind of music at all. But YG was Still Brazy, an incredible gangster rap and G-funk throwback. 18, this one grew on me over the year. It took a while for it too, but I have ended up liking this album more than the group's past incarnations. Preoccupations with their self-titled record also goes to my favorite album cover of the year. Number 17, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with Nonagon Infinity, an incredible lo-fi, hard-hitting adventure inside of a broken boombox that you can just admire from afar. Number 16 is the legend David Bowie with Black Star, a record that I was pretty floored with my first listen. A very interesting swan song and a culmination of all influences that have flowed throughout him through his career as a musician. And of course, with the recent passing of him, that context just plays even more into the crazy themes in the lyrics on this album about death and fame and all sorts of crazy stuff. Next, number 15. This album, I've never really been a huge fan of this band, but the power pop has been something that has grown on me a lot. Weezer's new album, The White Album, very much a return to form. Sounds just like the really old stuff that everyone loves. Number 14, this album, even though it is probably the slowest piece of music I have ever heard in my entire life, it really hit me the first time I listened to it, and it's one of the things that I sleep to almost every night, and it's one of the most beautiful pieces of ambient music that I've ever heard. Just 3 tracks, but it spans about an hour. Sarah Davachi with Vergers. Like, if you want to hear drone music, this is where you go, because it's the purest drone that I've heard. And number 13, I love this record. It is such a nice, disjointed kind of portfolio of moments with incredible beat production from Knowledge and singing from Anderson .Paak, the new No Worries album, Yes Lord. This album is just so fun, it's sexy, it's low down, it's dirty, it's smooth, so great. And at number 12, something even better, something that everyone was anticipating, just an incredible art rock record from this band that has legendary status as putting out some of the best art rock records of all time, and no different with this new one, Radiohead with A Moon-Shaped Pool. And then number 11, this is probably my definite album that I didn't expect to find, but I used the app Symbol quite a lot, and this person threw this at me through one of their posts, and I listened to it and I was amazed. It's just a combination of drone and experimental rock and avant-garde jazz. Tomaga with The Shape of the Dance. This is an album that's on Bandcamp and I highly recommend it. It's very just mind-bending and strange. And this next one is one of my favorite rock records of the year that really stuck with me. The new Ty Segall record, Emotional Mugger. This guy has a very spotty discography because he releases so much, but this is probably one of my favorite records of his because it's just so warped, and it's like taking his regular rock formula and just smudging it and tearing it and ripping it to shreds. There's all sorts of beat change-ups and odd time signatures on this thing, and it's just wild performances too, and just all sorts of wonderful things transpire on this amazing psych garage rock opus for Ty Segall. And number 9, it's a hip-hop record that after I heard his previous album, I really expected to like this as much because I fell in love with his style. Kendrick Lamar with Untitled Unmastered. This is just a collection of B-sides and leftovers, but it still holds up as well as his magnum opus, To Pimp a Butterfly. And number 8, one that really grew on me. This is one of the most evocative and thought-provoking art pop records of this year. Very politically motivated, which is something that doesn't normally happen for this genre of music, but they take very strong political messages and weave them into these beautiful pop anthems. I'm of course talking about Anohini, formerly Antony of Antony and the Johnsons, with Hopelessness. Beautiful stuff. And at number 7, this album I do not think is as good as their previous record, but still just as heavy, as unforgiving, long-winded, and hypnotizing. Loops just really intoxicating, and just like it pulls me in and takes me up. It's not as pummeling as their previous record, but it's more meditative, and I think a lot of more religious themes pop up on this record. The new Swans album, The Glowing Man, which is just, it's like my mind is in another world when I'm listening to this album. It's just amazing. Number 6, another interesting find that I didn't expect to come across this year. Some of the weirdest pop and rock music, and it's got a punk drive, but it's just so kooky and left field that it doesn't really feel like punk in the usual sense. I'm of course talking about Enjoy, with another word for joy. This guy, Mr. Wyatt Shears, has a ridiculously strange and out there voice, and it really lends its hand to this kind of homespun lo-fi kind of, you know, garage band MIDI production. I just think it's strange, and he just comes up with some really ridiculous catchy hooks in the midst of it, and it's just very interesting combination of these things going on. And then this year I feel like is the year of the Mood album. There are so many records this year that just put me into their own world, brought me away. It was just a form of escape, and this is one of the best out of those. The new Monster Rally record, Mystery Cove. Monster Rally is someone who I've followed since 2011, and I've loved every single one of his releases. He's an incredible sample scavenger. He pulls all these sort of exotica samples and samples from old Hawaiian music from the 50s and blends it with these break beats and tropical, and it's just, he creates this beautiful musical vacation. And then number 4 is another Mood album that takes a bit of a different turn. It makes me feel like I'm on an FM radio, just twisting the knobs and getting some very strange textures out of it. The new Tobacco record, Sweatbox Dynasty. 2 years ago, with Ultima 2 Massage, he put out one of my favorite electronic records I had heard in years. It was an incredibly vivid and refreshing sound with these ridiculously strange vocoder, whisper quiet vocals. And with Sweatbox Dynasty, it's like he took that album and he stretched it like taffy. And it's just so much more sluggish and just lumbering, and just so it's almost sexy in a way. It's just really, it's hot, it's breathing really hard, and there are so many switches in this in between songs where it just switches to a different beat, and it's like, again, like I'm changing the dial on the radio. And then at number 3, this album is very dark, and it is my number 1 album that I put on night drives. It's really dark, but it's also very groovy. Very nice drum timbres on this thing. Very amazing, smudgy lo-fi production, which is something that I've really grown to love, as you can tell from probably a lot of this list. It's a lot of different moments, but they all coalesce together into one big, just lo-fi, low-down night drive of insanity. I'm of course talking about the new Gonja Sufi record, Callous. When I heard this guy's first album, it blew me away, really, because it's such a weird blend of hip-hop and funk and rock. It's all just so seamless that it's really hard to place any labels on it. And then, number 2 is one that I was so close to putting to number 1, because it moved me so much how much this artist has progressed. I've watched this guy, this songwriter, from back in 2011 when he was putting out lo-fi rock albums on Bandcamp. He wrote some incredible songs, and his production was it made you feel very close to him. But with this record, he's finally got a full band, ups the fidelity of his sound just enough so that his words are coherent, and he comes with some of his sharpest songs in years. And it makes me tear up to see how far he's come. Will Toledo is an incredible songwriter, and with Car Seat Headrests, Teens of Denial, he's made his magnum opus, and this label debut is just, he really blew up, and it's so amazing for me as someone who's been following him for 5 years to see him finally get mainstream attention. And then, at my number 1 spot, I hope won't cause too much controversy, because it's not original material that's being played on this album, but this band treats it so well, treats the original material so well, that the covers are better than the original, and they've really made this their own music, and it is something that has stuck with me the entire year. It like, from the moment I heard it back in April, it's been something that I've come back to like once a week. It's so mesmerizing. There are so many beautiful and also dark and eerie dream pop songs, a lot of jazz influence, and there are some ambient moments, some very scary drone pieces. With the context of where this music is coming from, they make these lengthy covers of these songs, but they treat it so well, and they order them in such a way that it's just a very digestible album listen. Shoo Shoo really did the Twin Peaks soundtrack incredible justice with Shoo Shoo Plays the Music of Twin Peaks, such that it is my album of the year. Having watched the series and listened to the original soundtrack, they really brought it next level and made it just so much more disturbing and just animalistic and intense, and it's incredible. I am so glad that I got the opportunity to listen to this and all these albums. These are just incredible examples of the good things that happened this year. This year was a very turbulent and insane year, but these artists really helped me through it. I don't think this video is going to work, but I hope it does, and if it did, thank you. Thank you for watching, and happy holidays.